So in the over 2 decades that it's been since 9/11 happened, New York City has changed quite a bit. Buildings were torn down, skyscrapers were put up. A lot of what had happened around the 9/11 area has been cleaned up, repaired. It just doesn't exist anymore in the way that we saw it happen in the aftermath. But if you know where to look, there are still remnants, still scars that are around, hidden. And normally I'd be putting this on my main channel, Mobile Instinct, but anything that has to do with 9/11, certainly even just saying it, will get you demonetized, possibly even have the video taken down. So I figured it was proper to put it on a new channel of mine, which is called Beyond Lore, which is what you're watching now. So if you like that kind of stuff, even though this isn't exactly lore, if you like that kind of stuff, then definitely follow along, because I'm going to be doing lots of interesting videos. But for today, I'm in New York City to show you the scars of 9/11 that still exist. And I'm starting out at the very place where the only known video footage of the first plane crash, the first attack, happened, which is right here. Hit the tower right there, and there's the Freedom Tower. So I'm going to head down to ground zero to the Oculus. I'm going to show you some really interesting scars that are left behind.
Another plane inbound.
Another plane inbound. Another plane inbound. Oh,
Damn it.
a landline? Damn it, I can't get through. I need a landline. Laura, yeah, I'm on a payphone, standing close, very close to FBI officers, NYPD.
So this is the Federal Post Office building. That's why the FBI and some of the police officers were here. That's why they were able to be there so quick. They were actually coming out of these doors here and looking up at the towers. And that was wild. And so Building 7 was right here. That's why I wanted to show you that angle, that footage, because this is the infamous Building 7. So of course it wouldn't be a lore type video if we didn't discuss the different ideas that people have as far as what happened. I mean, can jet fuel melt steel? Can it weaken the steel enough where it loses its structural integrity and there's hundreds of thousands of pounds pushing down on it, causing it to pancake? Or were there explosives that were inside the building already? Was it detonated? Who knows? What do you think? Definitely leave a comment and let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Building 7 that was here. Why did it fall so much later than the other buildings? I mean, that came down hours and hours later. But this is where it was. This whole area is so different now. It's actually difficult to find it on the map, to figure out where everything is. All these buildings are different because they were all destroyed. There were buildings that were so damaged that they had to be torn down and redone. What other conspiracies are there? Share with me in the comments how this would have happened as far as the logistics of planting anything like that. I mean, you might as well speak your mind on this, because this video could very well be taken down at some point. YouTube does not like 9/11 videos. They don't like you to show anything like this. They certainly don't like you to talk about it. Again, that's why I didn't even put this on my main channel, because certainly it's not going to be monetized. So I felt like it was maybe a little more fitting anyway to put onto this new lore channel. So this is the Oculus. Basically, this is where the Twin Towers were. Most people have been here, but I wanted to take you in here to show you this one area, part of the original subway entrance over here. This is going towards the E train. Most people just stay back this way because that's where all the touristy stuff is, the stores, the mall, whatever you want to call it. But up here is the original area here. Basically, you can see where the tile starts. This is all original to what this was like prior to 9/11. This wheelchair ramp, in fact, it's interesting, there's no wheelchair access at all, but they've kept this here. This is where the firefighters and search and rescue walked through, and this is really what I wanted to show you. They've kept this paint here, spray paint here, from September 13th, the search and rescue. This X in the box represents how it was a dangerous area. There's actually a little thing you can read here. The markings of this door were made by search and rescue teams in the immediate aftermath of the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center. The code indicates that the search occurred on September 13th. The X in the box represents that the conditions at the time made this a dangerous area. The other symbols represent that the search of the area was undertaken by the U.S. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, Massachusetts Task Force. And this is really just kind of a throwback, even, you know, the old lettering, this is exactly what it used to look like. So throughout the Oculus, there are some other remnants, like there's a glass-covered floor that you can look down and see some of the original ironworks. Obviously, the museum has that huge wall. There's a lot of stuff in the museum, but I really want to show things that maybe people have not seen, that you don't see by just going to that museum. All right, now passing by one of the many tours that are constantly going on, I wanted to bring you to this walkway, this covered bridge here. Very obvious scratches and dents from that day, from when the towers fell. It's incredible. I had heard that they were going to fix this, but then it was decided not to. But you can see right out there all those little nicks and dents. I would say most people don't even know that this is still here. The pictures of what this looked like after the attacks is unbelievable, that it still exists, that they were able to restore it. For context, this is the corner of West and Liberty Street. I've said this in other videos, but when you come here and you see these flowers, this represents the birthday for that day of those people. So you'll see randomly flowers here and there. So all around both of these reflecting pools are 412 oak trees that were planted here. Eventually they want to have like a canopy, basically. But I wanted to come over here mostly because there's only one tree that is not an oak tree, and that's this survivor tree, which was heavily, heavily damaged and buried in rubble. I guess you can donate and then leave a little note here. So there's a plaque here that says this is a Cullery pear tree. It stands distinct from the hundreds of swamp oak trees on the memorial. It was discovered amidst the wreckage of the 9/11 attacks. Its bark charred from fires at the site and many of its limbs reduced to stumps. Yet somehow the tree, still bearing leaves, showed signs of life. Recovery workers transported the tree to a nursery in the Bronx to be cared for by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. Replanted at the 9/11 Memorial, December 2010, this survivor tree bursts into magnificent blossom each year, embodying a living symbol of resilience. And in between all of that was the Koenig Sphere, which has been brought back to this area. This was in between the towers. Very interesting art installation. I'm going to take you up there because the damage is still there. It was never repaired. Here it is. The Koenig Sphere. Wow, look at the damage up there. Whatever debris, whatever fell on that, crushing the top. The Port Authority commissioned Fritz Koenig to create this 25-foot bronze sculpture. Following September 11, 2001, the sphere took on additional meaning of hope and resilience when it was recovered from the rubble at Ground Zero. Incredible. This is what it used to look like. Or this is where it used to be. I remember that. You could really get a good look at the damage here. You can even see inside it now. The steel structure. Look at that. What's wild is Ladder Company 10, Ladder and Engine Company 10, were right here, right next to the towers. And it's almost like I don't know if this looks like just a museum now. Wow. And then just up the way from there is the Burger King, which was the search and rescue police headquarters here. Just a makeshift search and rescue. This was really the only feasible building that was intact that they could use as a base, a temporary base. It was one of the few buildings that was not destroyed when the buildings fell. Imagine how eerie it was at night here, because not everything was lit up. The main area down there, search and rescue, obviously that was lit up, but all up here was probably dark. There's actually some shots of at night with the police coming and going out of here. Look at that. And of course that brings us just across the street to Zucati Park, which was once called Liberty Plaza Park. This actually has some interesting history to it in itself, because this is where Occupy Wall Street happened, and which actually plays into the story that I'm going to tell you. There's a statue up here called Double Check. Just across the street from the park. I believe it was actually in the park at some point. So this is a statue called Double Check. Yeah, by Seward Johnson. There's a plaque right here. The everyman businessman, presence in Liberty Park, who before had faded into the background amongst his human brethren, has been called the survivor. He was lifted, battered, yet whole from the dust and rubble after the September 11th, 2001 tragedy. this whole area was completely filled with rubble and dust and debris and damage, and the firefighters actually mistakenly thought it was someone who was injured, who was just sitting on the bench. So often they would approach him, in the very beginning, they would approach the statue, thinking that it was somebody just sitting on the bench. And it really became a statue of hope because of all those business people who died just going to work, just living their lives. Very, very interesting. And see, people pass by all the time, and they're attracted to it because it's an interesting statue, for sure. This bronze man sits near his original site, bearing scratches and bruises he sustained that day as a poignant reminder of hope and endurance for us all. The name was changed in 2004 or something, 2006, to Zucati Park, named after, I believe, the designer of the park. And then Occupy Wall Street happened, and this is where all that took place, where all the tents were, where everybody was. And that statue, Double Check, was in there. And to them, it became kind of, like, oh, he was a businessman. They didn't like this statue. So they filled this all with garbage. There's pictures of it all filled with garbage. You can see in here he has, looks like a pack of cigarettes and some pencils, stapler, and a calculator, tape recorder. But this was all filled with garbage and written on, graffiti. Then it had to be cleaned up yet again. And after it was somewhat cleaned up, it was brought back to this area, and they didn't put it back in the park. It's just across the street. And now people enjoy it. I don't know if a lot of people even understand what this statue represents. So coming up on the Winter Garden Atrium, this is directly across the street from the towers. And this was this amazing, well, it still is, this amazing glass atrium. There are some interesting pictures that you can look at. I mean, it was absolutely devastated on 9/11. And in one of those pictures, I noticed that you can still see these garage doors here. The building footprints are pretty much the same on either side of the atrium, but it's all been redone. But you can see these garage doors, and then the atrium is inside here. That's where I want to take you. So this is the Winter Garden Atrium. It opened in 1988 as a part of the World Financial Center. And back then, it actually had a pedestrian bridge that connected to the World Trade Center, destroyed on 9/11, as well as this atrium. The before pictures are incredible. And surprisingly, this atrium was one of the very first structures that were completed, that were restored. Crews replaced 2,000 panes of glass, 60,000 square feet of marble, and planted 16 new palm trees, each 40 feet tall. In September 2002, barely a year later, the Winter Garden reopened. I want to hear what your opinion is about 9/11, about the towers, about the Pentagon. I want to hear, I want to read what you feel happened, how it happened, who was involved. There's a lot of theories out there, and I want to hear about it. So leave a comment, let me know. And if you think this is ridiculous, let me know. If you think that America deserved 9/11, let me know. I want to hear all about it. And obviously you're finding this new channel. Maybe I shouted it out on my Mobile Instinct channel, but definitely stick around, subscribe, because there's a lot of interesting lore videos coming out. All right, I'm getting out of here. See you in the next video.